Without so much as a warning, life hangs in the balance. Human endeavor turns to chaos. And within seconds, nothing will ever be the same. Ever. I'm Ron Pitts. Prepare to witness life-altering dramas captured at the moment of destruction. 450 pounds of snowmobile slammed down on a stunt rider's head as he attempts a dangerous backflip. A skydiver is lucky to survive when his botched landing leads to a violent high-speed cartwheel. There's no use trying to run, and there's nowhere to hide. Things are about to get destroyed in seconds. Jay Quinlan has been a star in the world of competitive sports since his teens. But the Alaskan native has never been able to pull off one of the most challenging maneuvers in extreme sports, a 360-degree backflip on a snowmobile. Again and again, he learns the hard way that often you must fail before you succeed. Finally, after totaling 4 snowmobiles and suffering a concussion, Jay accomplishes his dream. Today in the backwoods of Utah, Steve Medrano hopes to match Jay's achievement on his highly modified 160-horsepower sled. Like Jay, Steve's been riding professionally since his teens, but he's never been able to pull off what's considered the ultimate snowmobile stunt. The 25-year-old heads toward the man-made ramp. To complete this stunt, Steve estimates he can't exceed 15 miles an hour. He doesn't use a speedometer. Steve hits the ramp 10 miles an hour too fast. As a result, he doesn't have enough time to redistribute his weight backwards to shift the snowmobile's momentum. He loses his grip and falls 30 feet. The 450-pound machine lands on his head. Steve is unconscious. Only his feet and hands are visible above the snow. The impact cracks his carbon fiber helmet and buries him deep into the snow. A helicopter is quickly on scene and rushes him to the hospital with a gash to the face, 2 fractured vertebrae in his neck, and a severe concussion. It takes 2 years, but Steve fully recovers from the accident. But you won't find him trying anything like this again. He now only rides snowmobiles recreationally. As if the sensation of weightlessness during freefall wasn't exhilarating enough, there's swooping. An intense discipline within the sport of skydiving, swooping dares parachutists to skim as close to land or water as possible before they touch down. Using canopies about 1/3 the size of standard parachutes, these thrill seekers can hit speeds of over 90 miles per hour, while performing freestyle maneuvers and displays of pinpoint accuracy. It's the early morning hours at Skydive City in Zephyr Hills, Florida. Instructor David Hayes, known to his friends as TK, makes his approach over the target pond at 70 miles per hour. TK descends too fast as he prepares to swoop. He pulls at the steering toggles to give his parachute more lift, but it's too late. He's tossed head over heels in an uncontrollable cartwheel. He flips 2 times and is entangled in his parachute cords. His friends rush to his side, fearing the worst. TK undergoes surgery to repair 2 broken vertebrae in his neck. After months of physical therapy, TK's back swooping a year later. He says that misjudging his altitude upon landing is the sole reason for his devastating crash. Kent, England, August 2009. This is the 8th round of the British Supersport Championship, where pro motorcycle racers vie for the Superbike Cup. Today's contest is at Brands Hatch, a nearly 2.5-mile track known for its intense corners and steep downhill straightaway. With racers reaching speeds close to 160 miles per hour, the terrain challenges even the most experienced riders. Winner of the previous round, number 26, Chris Martin, is highly favored in this race. But an unexpected problem with Martin's bike is about to end not just this race, but Martin's entire racing season. As Martin takes the turn, his rear wheel locks up, throwing him off his bike. Martin tumbles 150 feet across a gravel trap. He hits a barrier and vaults nearly 25 feet before landing in shrubs. When Martin's front brake malfunctions, he hits his rear brake so hard that it locks up his rear tire. When medics arrive, they find Martin in extreme pain. He's taken to the hospital with a broken ankle, broken vertebrae, and broken ribs. Due to his injuries, Martin decides to sit out the rest of the season. He credits the inflated plastic air fence for saving his life. July 1979. Mushroom clouds of toxic smoke rise above Memphis, Tennessee. A fire at a chemical plant fills the air with toxic pesticide fumes. The fire begins when an 8,000-gallon tank filled with an insecticide containing methylparathion suddenly overheats and ignites. The chemical is so dangerous that civil defense authorities order the evacuation of 3,000 residents over a 5-square-mile area. Firefighters have to wear protective masks and carry air tanks to safely battle the blaze. They not only have the flames and the dangerous fumes to contend with, but flying projectiles as well. Chemical-filled drums explode throughout the 60,000-square-foot plant. After 3 hours, the fire is finally under control. A mechanical malfunction caused the tank to overheat. Damages to the plant are estimated at over $3 million. 155 people are treated at nearby hospitals for burns and breathing disorders. Experts believe that if the wind wasn't blowing away from downtown Memphis that day, up to 10,000 people could have been exposed to the dangerous fumes. Some of the fastest production sports cars in the world go fender to fender in southwest England. It's the Pirelli Porsche Cup, where Europe's top drivers compete for a cash prize.
Teammate Godfrey Jones tucks right up behind him. Well, I don't reckon Godfrey has discovered him, because he's attacking him so vigorously.
Peter Chambers and Godfrey Jones vie for the lead at 120 miles an hour in their Porsche Carreras.
First of which is adding Peter Chambers in the second.
As they enter lap 13, the two men are only inches apart. But one of them is going to bring this race to a sudden end. The cars lose control when Jones in the yellow car bumps Chambers in the red car at 120 miles an hour. A photographer scrambles to avoid being struck by debris. Once hit, Chambers immediately loses control. Jones takes a direct hit from the front, Chambers from the back.
That is an absolutely colossal accident.
Red flags go up, bringing the race to an immediate stop.
Godfrey Jones' door opens. He's okay.
Both of the race cars are heavily damaged and need to be rebuilt. The worst injury is a sore neck suffered by Chambers. The track's chief official is convinced that both men owe their lives to the earthen barrier, which absorbs much of the force of the impact.
At bay. It's the braking area. Attack on the tail. Chambers gets the knock behind the first ball.
Top fuel hydros can blast through the water at 200 miles per hour. At such high speeds, these supercharged boats hydroplane across the surface with very little hull touching the water. Racers have to manipulate foot pedals and airfoils, like those found on airplanes, to keep their boats from flying into the air. But sometimes that's unavoidable. It's the 2006 Tri-Cities Atomic Cup Rumble. Defending champion Dave Bilwalk is in the lead. Rough winds create chop on the river, adding more difficulty to the course. As Dave comes out of the second turn, he races down the straightaway. But the chop causes the boat to bounce off the water. Dave adjusts his canard, but overcompensates. The stern lifts, and the boat launches roughly 60 feet in the air. It whips through a 360 with Dave strapped inside. The back end of the boat smashes onto the water, narrowly missing another competitor. Dave's safety pod canopy is open, but there's no movement inside. Several tense seconds tick by. Then, Dave's head emerges from the cockpit. He climbs out and checks his craft for damages. A rescue boat arrives and takes Dave and his hydro to shore. Dave is injury-free, but his boat suffers roughly $28,000 worth of damage. That same day, Dave and his crew replace the propeller, gearbox, canard, and wind stabilizer. And Dave goes on to win the championship. This is only the second time in hydro racing history that a boat goes on to win after experiencing such a destructive crash. safari racing sounds like something you might find in the wilds of Africa. But it's actually a motorsport competition held in the English countryside. Drivers compete for the fastest time in modified four-wheel drive vehicles on a course that mirrors wild terrain typically found on a safari. At this safari race in Broadbottom, England, competitors bound over a hill while trying to maintain control. Something this driver finds easier said than done. Racer Dave Brown and his navigator approach a hill in their customized Land Rover 3M. The momentum launches the four-wheeler. It lands nose first, then flips 6 times for nearly 100 feet before finally coming to a stop. Race officials and bystanders rush to the crash site. Brown and his navigator are examined for injuries. Due in part to the Land Rover's safety harnesses and head restraints, Brown escapes injury, and his navigator suffered only a bruised knee. But the wreckage has to be towed away. Brown spends $5,000 repairing his four-wheeler and later returns to safari racing. La Paz, Bolivia. 2 weeks of torrential rains wreak havoc on this already fragile hillside. Several homes and apartments have already collapsed as residents are forced to evacuate. Buildings continue to fall. The foundations on several multi-family apartment buildings are completely displaced. Support beams have no reinforcement, leading to collapse. Years of heavy rains caused the poorly maintained canal that runs beneath the city to fail. Walls erode, and surrounding ground becomes overly saturated, triggering landslides. In all, 50 buildings are destroyed, 300 people are injured, and 2 are missing and presumed dead. The government declares this hillside a black zone, unsafe for human habitation.
Destruction never takes a holiday, and neither do we. I'm Ron Pitts. We'll see you next time on Destroyed in Seconds.